The Prayer Warrior, written by Duane. 411 Heaven. The morning was calm. The sky shimmered with gentle streaks of gold as sunlight touched the horizon. Jonathan sat behind the wheel, heading to work like he did every day. But for him it was never just a drive, it was sacred time, his hour with the Lord. The road wandered through miles of countryside, long stretches of open land bordered by gentle, rolling trees and misty fields. Some mornings the world felt peaceful and holy. Other days, heavy rain fell and thunder rumbled softly in the distance. But Jonathan never minded. He would smile and whisper, "You've got me covered, Lord." He had learned that peace wasn't found in perfect weather. It was found in perfect trust. Even when his job required him to fly, he carried that same peace. Just before takeoff, he'd close his eyes and say softly, "If I die, I die, and be with the Lord." It wasn't fear, it was faith. He had long accepted that some things were beyond his control, and in those moments, trust became his most powerful weapon. Time with God was a mandatory thing, no exceptions. It wasn't duty, it was devotion. It was love. After years of walking closely with God, Jonathan's mornings had become holy ground. Music filled those mornings, no other sound but praise and worship. It kept his heart steady, his mind anchored, and his spirit from wandering. Years ago he had walked away from rock and country and western songs that once entertained him but never nourished him. Now his heart craved only worship. Gospel music filled his car with reminders of grace, hope, and power. He had heard of other prayer warriors who prayed in silence. That was fine for them, but it didn't work for him. He needed the music, the words, the atmosphere. It stirred his spirit and carried him deeper into God's presence. Sometimes, as the songs played softly, a person would come to mind. A friend, a co-worker, someone from church. He would lift their name to heaven, his voice quiet but sure. Some prayers lasted only seconds, others lingered longer, but each one left a deep peace behind. Over time, he began to notice small changes at home. His wife hadn't changed much outwardly. She was still kind and loving, but Jonathan sensed it. When he prayed, peace filled the house like light through an open window. When he didn't, something was missing. It wasn't tension exactly, just a heaviness, a stillness without rest. He realized prayer didn't just shape him, it influenced the atmosphere around him. His time with God extended beyond his own soul. It touched his home, his marriage, and even moments that never explicitly mentioned faith. One Sunday, his pastor began a series titled Prayer That Changes the Atmosphere. He preached from Daniel 10, describing how Daniel's unwavering devotion and prayer stirred movement in the unseen realm. For 21 days, Daniel sought God until an angel appeared, explaining that his answer had been delayed by the prince of Persia, not a man, but a demonic power ruling over that kingdom, until Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help. Michael, the archangel of God, is heaven's warrior, assigned to defend God's people and lead angelic armies in spiritual battle. In verses 20 to 21, the angel revealed that the conflict was still ongoing. He would return to fight the powers over Persia and Greece. The pastor reminded them that Daniel's persistence in prayer didn't just reach heaven, it moved heaven to act. As Jonathan listened, it reminded him of a dream he once had. He saw God's angels hovering over and guarding 3 states, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, while smaller angels covered the surrounding territories. Suddenly, it all began to make sense. The pastor spoke with power that morning. Many believers underestimate what happens when they pray, he said. You may not see it, but the spiritual world listens. Angels move, hearts soften, darkness retreats. Jonathan sat motionless, absorbing every syllable. As he drove home, they echoed in his mind. Prayer shifts. He couldn't shake it. He thought about all the prayers he had spoken, some quiet, some distracted, and wondered what might have been happening in the unseen world. The more he pondered, the more his spirit stirred. What if prayer wasn't just conversation? What if it was warfare? From that week forward, his routine changed. Before starting the car, he'd take a deep breath and whisper, "God, I give you this time. Teach me to listen." He'd sing softly, sometimes tears flowing, other times quiet stillness, but always aware that heaven was near. By the time he arrived at work, something inside him was anchored. The same job felt lighter, the same pressures smaller. He realized prayer didn't remove the weight. It gave him strength to carry it. At night, he discovered new rhythms of peace. If his wife went out to a women's event or errands, he used that time to meet with God. He'd turn off the TV, dim the lights, and whisper, "I'm here, Lord." Even when she was home, watching her favorite shows in the living room, he often stayed in the den. Sometimes he turned off his own TV, letting the quiet settle in. That room became his sanctuary, a sacred space of devotion within everyday life. He noticed that when he prayed regularly, calmness followed him. When he didn't, life felt heavier. Prayer wasn't an event anymore. It was his atmosphere. He saw the same change at work. People began opening up to him, sharing struggles, asking for prayer. He never advertised it, yet somehow they knew. The peace he carried drew them in. He would pray right there, in the workplace, the break room, even the parking lot. Sometimes the words came gently, other times firmly, but always full of compassion. And one by one, hearts began to change. He remembered his pastor's words, "When you intercede, you stand between heaven and earth." Jonathan had become that bridge, quietly, faithfully, without needing to be seen. Of course, the deeper he went, the more resistance came. Distractions, weariness, misunderstanding. Some people thought he was too serious, too spiritual. But Jonathan had long stopped seeking approval. He'd experienced something real, and he couldn't go back. He knew the fiercest battles weren't fought with shouts or swords, but in silence, where choices are made. To forgive instead of resent. To stay calm instead of react. To believe when doubt whispers loudest. That was spiritual warfare. Months passed, and his peace deepened. The same roads he once drove now felt like sacred pathways. He began to recognize when God was prompting him, when to pray, when to listen, when to speak. One night, he woke suddenly at 2:30 a.m., calm and alert. A name came to mind, someone from church he barely knew. He whispered, "Lord, whatever they need tonight, meet them there." The next day, that same person approached him, eyes moist. "I don't know why," they said, "but last night, around 2:30, I felt peace for the first time in days." Jonathan smiled quietly. "God is faithful," he said. Prayer had become his hidden life. Not a secret of pride, but of purpose. He didn't seek attention. He sought availability. Every drive, every quiet night, every name that crossed his mind became part of the calling God had inscribed on his heart. Then, one Sunday morning, the pastor's closing words sealed it all. The greatest battles aren't fought with swords, but with surrender. The greatest warriors aren't the loudest, they're the most obedient. Prayer is not a last resort, it's the front line. Jonathan sat still, eyes closed, tears forming, not of sorrow, but understanding. He wasn't just praying anymore, he was partnering with heaven. That afternoon, he took the long way home, the countryside bathed in gold. He turned off the radio and let silence fill the car. As he rounded a bend, warmth filled the air around him. He didn't see anything, but he knew. God was there. Deep inside, a whisper rose. You're not alone in this fight. You're part of my army. Jonathan gripped the wheel, eyes blurred with tears. He whispered, "Thank you, Lord." In closing, he recognized that being a prayer warrior isn't about exercising power, but about engaging in true spiritual warfare. He no longer sought victory through his own strength, but chose to wrestle in the Spirit until breakthrough came. He resolved not to strive aimlessly, but to stand firm through prayer, faith, and endurance. And with a steady heart he declared, "As your warrior, I kneel before you. I fight in prayer, and I will persist until heaven moves." And from that day on, peace followed him wherever he went. He no longer prayed hoping heaven might listen. He prayed knowing heaven already had. If this story spoke to your heart, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share it so others can be encouraged too.